Alright, we're out here, side of the highway, and we saw this silver haze, which is how you can identify autumn olive bushes. And if you see that silver haze in the leaves, mixed with a little red in there, then you know you got fruit, and it's a good idea to pull over and check it out, because autumn olives are not all created the same. Before I get to that, I'm going to talk a little bit how to identify them. But you see these leaves, they're like green, right? And the underside is very silver. It's almost metallic, and that it's like a metallic color is also, let me see that. It's also on the berries. It's raining now, so it's hard to see, but I'll show you in a second here. Let's get in here. There's nothing else that looks like that. I think sometimes people might confuse, it's possible to confuse autumn olives with honeysuckle, but pretty tough. Honeysuckle berries are born in pairs, so there'll be like two berries touching next to each other. But this is autumn olive. This is what they look like. A completely safe, whoa, I have to let that truck go by. A completely safe and edible berry. In fact, a super berry. Autumn olives are here as messengers and healers. They're not just here as weeds, as a lot of people will say. These plants have been extremely maligned in any kind of literature talking about native plants and non-native plants, university research. These plants are hated, to be honest. They're actually hated. But these plants are healers. They're not here by accident. They're here because we've done things to the land and to ourselves, and this is a response. These plants grow where the soil has been stripped bare and there's no nitrogen and no carbon, and they bring both of those out of the atmosphere and are able to grow in the worst, most abused soils on the planet. Places where we've blown the top off a mountain in Appalachia and there's nothing left. Autumn olives will grow there and they will begin the healing process. They can also, it's Pepsi, they can also heal our bodies, right? So we put all kinds of toxins in our bodies, like Pepsi or EMF waves or whatever, things that, all kinds of foods that have glyphosate on them, things that can lead to cancer. And the autumn olive, that rich red color, what that is, you're seeing lycopene. Lycopene prevents cancer. It's in tomatoes. Well, autumn olives are the super berry, and they have 17 times the amount of lycopene as tomatoes. They're also incredibly productive. You can find bushes that are just so laden with fruit they're bent to the ground. I have research that I've read. Autumn olives produce sometimes like 3 times the amount of fruit as blueberries. But people don't plant them because they're not from here. That's a philosophical thing. Where something comes from, in my mind, is irrelevant to how it performs in a landscape. Are they weedy? Yeah, they're super successful. And where are they weedy? They're weedy in places that have been abused. They're not weedy in an old growth forest. They're not weedy in a healthy prairie. These plants are weedy where we have stripped the soil, where we've removed all the trees. They're going to grow in response to disturbance. They need full sun, and they are medicine for the earth and for ourselves. These plants were created for a reason, and they're finding their reason right here, right now, and they are waiting for you. Now, the thing is, some people have tasted autumn olives and they're like, oh, I don't like those, they're nasty. Those people are missing something. Within every species, there's variation. So if you were to meet one person and they were kind of mean and bitter, you'd be like, oh, all people are mean and bitter? No. You have to meet other people. It's the same with the autumn olive. So this bush right here that my kid's picking from, that's right, that he's picking these berries from, these are really good berries. But he's not picking any from over here because these aren't as good. These are smaller and more astringent. And you have to taste different ones to find the good ones. Just like wild apples or really anything. There's going to be tremendous variation. This autumn olive bush right here is a decent one, but there's ones that are much better. And there's ones that are much worse. So when you see that silver haze along the highway, and you look and you see some red in there, try it out, and you might find the next treasure. I've seen some phenomenal things within this species. Elaeagnus umbellata. A great plant, super vigorous. I'll just back up for a shot here and give you a sense of how big these plants get. This is about how big they get at full maturity. I find they live to be about 30 years old. And once they get to be about 30 or 40, they start to die out. And then something else takes over. Big truck coming. Hold on. So that's it. That's a hedge of autumn olive. That's about how tall they get and how wide they get. And we'll look here at the understory of the autumn olive. They're very dominant. So there's not a lot growing in there, but there is things growing in there. And over time, as these bushes start to die, it'll give way to other trees. And whatever happened to this ground before is going to become something else as these bushes mature and start to die out. From here I can see several ash seedlings and honeysuckle, but this is a perfect understory, almost like a nursery, where you could establish other trees pretty easily without a lot of weed pressure, and then remove the autumn olives as your trees mature. Because these are not going to last. These bushes are not going to be here for 100 years just not letting anything else grow. In fact, if you really only care about native plants, this is a perfect place to establish them. This is a place where the soil has been improved and is much richer, full of more carbon and more nitrogen than it did before. There's studies showing that autumn olives increase the growth of trees by double. So trees that are growing near autumn olives will grow twice as fast as trees that aren't, because of that nitrogen. Alright, a totally misunderstood plant. I could go on and on for hours. In fact, I probably will one day. Alright, thank you.